the question that divides faiths. Was Jesus God? The speaker recounted a personal experience of standing in a dim room, a Bible in one hand and a Quran in the other, seeking truth rather than controversy. A single question burned brightest in that quest. Was Jesus God? This pursuit of truth, the speaker emphasized, demands immense courage, the willingness to confront deeply ingrained beliefs and consider the possibility of being mistaken. Truth isn't always comfortable. It often dismantles preconceived notions built on tradition, clearing the way for a more solid foundation. Many simply inherit their beliefs from parents, culture, or community, rarely daring to question. However, true faith, the speaker argued, isn't about conformity but begins with a fundamental question, a desire to uncover what's real, regardless of the personal cost. When the speaker began to question Jesus' divinity, it wasn't an act of defiance, but a search for inner peace, clarity, and a deeper understanding of God. Yet even posing such a question felt like a betrayal, despite the inherent human capacity for thought. Jesus in the Bible. A look at the evidence. As the speaker delved into the Bible, certain verses presented a surprising picture. Jesus is depicted praying to God, stating, "The Father is greater than I," and asking, "Why do you call me good? No one is good but God alone." These passages, often overlooked in sermons, became undeniable once seen. The speaker then turned to the Quran, anticipating a negative portrayal of Jesus, but found the opposite. The Quran honors Jesus, calling him the Messiah, recounting his miraculous birth, and affirming that God instilled love and mercy in his followers' hearts. Crucially, the Quran unequivocally presents Jesus as a servant of God, not God himself. This clarity, though radical to some, seemed more logical than complex theological explanations attempting to reconcile a man as both fully divine and fully human. Embracing this new understanding meant letting go of a familiar image of Jesus, not to dishonor him but to see him accurately. This journey can be isolating, leading to questions from family and community and even self-doubt. It demands inner conviction, the strength to prioritize truth over popularity or deception. The courage to seek truth, the speaker noted, is the courage to surrender ego, to admit ignorance, and to accept that answers might necessitate significant change, a point where many halt their inquiry due to fear of the cost, comfort, relationships, or even identity. My personal revelation and the unifying figure of Jesus. When the speaker finally acknowledged, "I no longer believe Jesus is God," it wasn't an act of arrogance but profound humility. It was a step into something different, yet something profoundly real, bringing peace, born from following evidence and prayer. Jesus, a universally revered figure, is honored in both the Bible and the Quran for his extraordinary life, miraculous birth, message, and divine significance. An honest examination of both scriptures, free from cultural or inherited biases, reveals a powerful truth. Jesus is not a dividing line but a shared treasure between Christianity and Islam, respected and exalted in both. The Bible portrays Jesus as the Messiah, a compassionate man of wisdom and divine authority, performing miracles and speaking with profound power. He is the light of the world, guiding people to righteousness and devotion to God. For many Christians, he is the incarnate Word of God, intended to redeem humanity. Upon exploring the Quran, one discovers Jesus, Isa, revered as the Messiah, a word from God and a spirit from him. His miraculous birth to the Virgin Mary is detailed with dignity. Both scriptures depict Jesus performing miracles, healing the blind, raising the dead, but the Quran consistently attributes these acts to God's permission, emphasizing that they are signs of a prophet's authority, not his own divinity. Islam emphasizes that Jesus is a servant of God, a chosen messenger, and one of the greatest prophets, part of a lineage including Noah, Abraham, Moses, and Muhammad. His mission was to call humanity to monotheism, to worship the one true God, not to be worshipped himself. While Islam differs on the crucifixion narrative, it upholds the belief that Jesus was raised by God and will return before the end of time to restore justice. This unique position in Islam rejects any notion of him as a failed or defeated figure. Re-examining the Gospels, Jesus' humility and submission. When one examines the Bible with the explicit question, "Was Jesus God?" the speaker argued, a consistent pattern emerges. Jesus never explicitly claimed to be God, and his statements often point away from divinity and towards submission to a higher power. Even in the Gospel of John, often cited for its theological depth, Jesus states, "The Father is greater than I," John 14:28, a clear acknowledgement of hierarchy. He repeatedly emphasizes his dependence on God, saying, "I can do nothing by myself, as I hear, I judge," John 5:30, portraying himself as a servant acting under authority. Jesus' frequent prayers to God throughout the Gospels, such as, "Not my will, but yours be done," Luke 22:42, further underscore his distinct will from God's. The term Son of God, the speaker explained, does not automatically imply divinity in biblical context, as it is used for Adam, Israel, and King David, signifying closeness or a special mission. Jesus also rebuked those who tried to elevate him, as seen in his response to being called good teacher. "Why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone." Matthew 19:17. This moment, often overlooked, highlights his humility and refusal of divine titles. He consistently referred to himself as a prophet, aware of his mission within the long line of messengers. All his miracles, authority, and words, the speaker concluded, originated from God, painting a picture of a man completely surrendered to the divine will, a messenger, a servant, a prophet, the Messiah. The Quran's clarification of Jesus' role. The speaker emphasized that a sincere and curious approach to Islam reveals it doesn't reject Jesus, but restores his rightful place in the divine narrative. Islam preserves his message and protects his legacy, honoring him while clarifying his true role as a servant and messenger of God. The Quran speaks of Jesus, Isa, with profound respect, aligning with monotheism and echoing the role of prophets throughout history. Islam teaches that Jesus was born miraculously to Mary, Maryam, one of the most honored women in the Quran. While acknowledging his miracles, speaking from the cradle, healing the sick, the Quran clearly states these were by God's permission, distinguishing them as signs of a prophet's authority rather than signs of divinity. The Quran calls Jesus the Messiah, a word from God, and a spirit from him, titles understood within the framework of prophethood and human submission. A crucial clarification offered by Islam concerns the crucifixion. While most Christians believe Jesus died on the cross, Islam teaches he was neither killed nor crucified, but that it appeared so to the people, and God raised him up in honor. This is seen not as a denial of his importance, but a defense of his purity and divine protection. Islam also believes Jesus will return before the end of time to restore justice, solidifying his unique place as a living figure with God, returning as a servant, not as God himself. Islam's message about Jesus is one of correction, aiming to remove confusion and preserve the monotheism Jesus himself preached. It offers a return to the simplicity that Jesus was a prophet, a miracle worker, the Messiah, but always a servant of God, never equal to God. My breakthrough, humility, peace, and a deeper respect for many, including formerly devout Christians. This shift in understanding isn't a rejection of Jesus, but a desire to connect with the real Jesus, what he truly said, taught, and intended. This is an act of reverence, requiring courage to question ingrained teachings and humility to accept challenging answers. Such a realization isn't sudden. It involves extensive reading, heartfelt prayers, and internal conflict, often coupled with fear of disappointing family, being misunderstood, or losing spiritual identity. However, humility guides this journey, prioritizing truth over tradition and conviction over comfort. This humility often leads to the conclusion that Jesus never claimed divinity, always pointing to the one who sent him, and that Islam's portrayal of him might be more accurate than previously understood. This conclusion also demands letting go of pride and admitting past misunderstandings. It's about seeking God's face with honesty, even when the truth is unsettling. This journey to truth is often quiet, a gentle realization that Jesus, like earlier prophets, submitted to God as a chosen man, not a divine being, to guide others to truth. It's the recognition that love for Jesus doesn't require his divinity to be real, and his example of mercy, justice, and devotion remains powerful when seen as a servant. When this conclusion is finally reached, that Jesus was a mighty messenger of God, it doesn't diminish love for him. Instead, it often brings deeper respect. He becomes more relatable, human, and inspiring, a model of surrender to God's will, a teacher whose words resonate within monotheism, and a figure whose story has been preserved and clarified by a faith that sought to honor him without claiming ownership. This conclusion, rooted in humility, ultimately brings peace, fostering unity rather than division.